Blog Talk Radio.
I love it when there's that dramatic pause after the music.
Well, yeah, because it kind of gets people wondering, like, are they there? Is this going to be a big deal? Am I going to cry because they're not here? I mean, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? Hey, it's August 14, 2013. This is the Sackheads radio show. Big show tonight because you're here.
And that is a big deal because...
And Sacco's here.
And that's even a bigger deal. Because usually he's not, which is weird. He's like our tech guy, and I think he sets it up remotely. He's practically like the NSA.
Like, why did we even pay him?
Because we don't. He's like the NSA because we could have things like not working at all, and he's not here, and all of a sudden everything comes to life like 3 minutes before the show starts, and he's like instant messaging you like, hey, why are you on that website?
Yeah, I don't even know how he does it. Remember the time that he shut my phone off from afar? It was the weirdest thing.
I think Sacco is the NSA. I'm not 100% sure. I think he's a plant. Well, he's not a plant. That'd be ridiculous.
No, he's a person.
By the way,
what?
How do you like your mask? I brought him in as gifts tonight.
I love it.
So tonight, instead of wearing sacks on our heads like we usually do during the show, we brought Obama masks in.
Well, why wouldn't we? Because we are a couple of clowns.
We are a couple of clowns, and it's not offensive. People can't see, but we're kind of painting a picture right now.
Like the Mona Lisa, if you will.
Right.
The radio version of Mona Lisa.
But not really the Mona Lisa, more like the Mona Baracus Obamas. I don't know how to say that, like all Frenchy or whatever.
Francais, I believe it is. Hello. Hey, at 8:30 tonight we have Greg Phillips from Voters Trust coming on, and he's going to talk to us all about Voters Trust. He may even take a few phone calls and maybe some questions off the interwebs, I believe they still call it.
I'm excited about that. I actually have a couple questions as well.
Well, I hope so, because we're doing an interview.
Oh, is it an interview, or do we really ever do an interview?
What do you think? We're just going to turn the show
over?
over?
It's more of a bullshit session. Let's be real.
Here you go, Greg. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. The mic's all yours.
Right. Hey, thanks for calling in, Greg. I'm going to go drink a beer.
Next day, I'm reading Twitter. I'm like, what do you mean the show is better than our regular one? Come on. So we're really excited. It's going to be a really good show. So getting back to this rodeo clown thing.
What rodeo? You mean that racist? You mean that horrible racist?
Rahm Emanuel says it, and you never let a good crisis go to waste.
I don't think this is a crisis.
Or when there is not a crisis, he went on to continue, and this one was off the record, you invent one.
Right. I don't even know if this is a crisis. Look, this was so horrible because presidential masks have never been used in anything ever before.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are the ex-presidents, and we need just a few moments of your time. We've been screwing you for years, so a few more seconds shouldn't matter. Now, should it? I'm not a crook.
So that's from 20th Century Fox, the movie Point Break.
Right.
And
in no way, shape, or form derogatory.
No, because they weren't robbing a bank or anything with presidential masks on. Matter of fact, the presidents were Reagan, Nixon, Johnson, and Carter. Okay. So at least they were balanced.
They were absolutely balanced.
But no, I don't remember anybody going ballistic over that, about the presidents having guns and robbing a bank, and Nixon saying, "I am not a crook." That wasn't mocking at all.
Or all the, I think it was Game of Thrones that put the head of George Bush on a stake.
It was, the mask of George Bush.
And if you go to our Twitter feed and you look at our pictures, I found a whole bunch of pictures of mostly Bush. There's one of Reagan on there too, with different people. Either like one from Bush was him hanging.
Right.
All this other stuff. So if you go to Twitter at Sackheads, you can see the pictures and just how it was absolutely ridiculous how people can portray that, and liberals, when I say, I don't know why I use the word people, liberals could portray that, and that's completely okay.
Susan, I'm just going to call her Sue, from CNN.
Yeah.
The awesome journalist, real intelligent, just
full of integrity.
Right, absolutely.
I think that's her street name.
There was whose integrity? That's weird. And how do you know that much about her personal life? Look, do you remember she was totally okay with Bush? There was the mask, George Bush mask with the Hitler mustache,
absolutely,
and the devil horns.
Yeah,
and she kind of joking with the person because it was so awesome, right? How clever,
right?
But then there was the Obama as Hitler mask.
Whoa!
Went sideways. So I also we found some more pictures of George Bush, and all you have to do is Google George Bush mask, and the devil horn Bush comes up. One of my favorite pictures is this. It's a guy standing in front of the White House with the Bush, a motherfucker. That's a quote of a sign he's holding, big sign in front of the White House. Another symbol of a Hispanic man holding a knife to the throat of President George Bush, that he's holding this like this cutout of George Bush in his face. And none of that's horrible. Did you know there was a movie made about the assassination of George W. Bush?
Yeah, there was.
Called Death of a President?
Yeah, and it was pushed all over the place.
And it won awards.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was posed like one of those pseudo documentaries or whatever, a mockumentary.
Yeah.
And it was about the assassination of President Bush.
And
nobody said, but I do have to say this, and I'm going to get some hate mail for this. Hillary Clinton actually came out against it and said it was horrible to depict the assassination of a United States president and blah blah blah. Now this was a British movie, but it won several awards, and there were several liberals that came out and supported.
Oh, this is amazing.
The movie, yeah.
I'm sure Michael Moore was there at the opening.
Speaking of British,
fathead.
I came across a British person today. Like I went looking for one. I sought one out. No, I didn't. But we just started
him because they're really pale.
We just started talking, and I went to a gun range. So, oh my gosh, I'm so violent, right? All you lefties that are listening right now. So, and this British guy was there, and he says, "You Yanks and your guns." Yanks. Now I kind of took exception to that, and
what
I said,
was Piers Morgan doing there?
That's what I thought. I said, "You Yorkies."
You're not the only one, because Rooster in the chat room said the exact same thing.
I said, "You Yorkies are so cute." And he said, "Yorkies?" I said, "Yeah, in remembrance of Yorktown. That's where we kicked your ass." And he just looked at me. And I said, "Hey, you know what the greatest thing? You know what the greatest gift to the world is that came from Great Britain?" And he looked at me again. I said, "America. You can go ahead and thank the world for us." And I walked out, and he was just all blown out. Anyways, I digress. I got on the story about British.
So to get back to this whole clown mask stupidity that's gripping our nation. By the way, I think it's funny that this is bigger than IRS, which we might talk about Lois Lerner later if we have enough time at the end of the show. Her new video and the emails, all that stuff. Still bigger than Benghazi and mainstream media.
This is bigger than Michael Moore, and that's saying something.
Huge. The simple fact that this is getting as much attention is the absolute smokescreen that we allege mainstream media does on a regular basis with real topics, and they always looking for something to exploit. And this is it. And this poor Tuffy Gessling, this rodeo clown, who, by the way, has worn other president masks when he's done this in the past.
No.
And
why is he so hateful?
But it's become one of those things that if you can't poke a little bit of fun at politics, we're done.
It's your fundamental First Amendment right.
But
we've been doing it since the founding of this country. We used to make fun of King George, and it was illegal.
we still did it without thinking about it.
We still did it. That's how American we were.
I am so mad. Now, apparently all these clowns are going to sensitivity training.
Now, wait, you say clowns, like all the people calling this racist, all those clowns are going to sensitivity training?
I wish they'd go to reality training.
Right.
They're sending all these poor Missouri rodeo clowns to the sensitivity training.
They should refuse to go.
And I said, if all of a sudden questioning our leaders and poking a little fun of them qualifies you for sensitivity training, we should probably go. Because that's our bread and butter a lot of times.
I won't go.
Oh, no, I'll go.
No. I want to go.
Yeah,
I changed my mind.
Too.
I want to go. I think we would have so much fun.
So just when it's all getting dumb.
Now hang on. I do want to say one thing. I am happy, and I do have to give the left a little credit here. I'm very happy that nobody has called for any kind of criminal investigation or anything like that, because that would be so ridiculous and just so far in left field, get the pun, that I'm very happy that at least that doesn't happen. People can act all angry or whatever, and we can have First Amendment rights, but you can't. Okay, fine, whatever.
The NAACP in Missouri, her NAACP state president, Mary Ratliff, released a statement calling for the Justice Department and Secret Service to investigate this rodeo incident with this rodeo clown, stating the activities at the Missouri State Fair targeting and inciting violence against our president are serious and warrant a full review by both the Secret Service and the Justice Department. Holder's going to jump right on that.
I'm going to take one step further. I think they need to investigate every single farmer that has cows, because clearly there's a plot to use cows
to take down the president. She went on to say, incidents involving individuals acting out in extreme violent behavior in movie theaters, schools, churches, political appearances, outdoor events, in general speak volumes to the irresponsible behavior of all the parties involved with the incendiary events at the Missouri State Fair. This is the NAACP president
what does
in
that
Missouri.
Stand for? Isn't it the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People?
Yes.
That is clearly a racist organization, because you can't say colored people anymore, because that is from
I
the
want
Jim
Eric
Crow.
Holder to investigate them.
That is such a Jim Crow era that why would they title themselves that? Clearly, that is part of a conspiracy.
Or if they want to be progressive, which they do, they could progress it.
National Association for the Advancement of African American, NAAA.
You're falling out of the chair. Easy.
Yeah, I ran out of A's. P. I mean, what if there was an organization called the NAANCP?
Well,
the National Association for the Advancement of Non-Colored People.
Oh, God.
There would be...
Eric Holder would actually be knocking on our door. Hey, guys.
I think
we need to talk.
Here now.
It's because you're going to the gulag. That's
right.
what it comes down to at this point. The simple fact that, and this is the same NAACP that called, you remember I think it was last year in Detroit, there was all the union protests, and there was the hot dog vendor, a black guy that was selling, and he got attacked and beaten, called an Uncle Tom.
Yes.
They were they had the statements about that, essentially downing the guy who got attacked and had all of his stuff destroyed.
Yeah,
so
how dare he sell hot dogs? Where
those geniuses are coming from. It's beyond me. Like, I can't even imagine if you're the president of the Missouri NAACP to go, ooh, this has race written all over it. Really? Yeah.
What about the 3 kids that beat the crap out of the white kid on
down in Florida? Yeah. And where's the NAACP there? Saying, hey, you know what? We stand in solidarity with that poor kid. And that shouldn't have happened. This is absolutely terrible. So I'm going to say I stand with Tuffy. That's going to be my new slogan until this is all said and gone. Stand with Tuffy, the rodeo clown. He's, by the way, been barred or kicked out of the Missouri Rodeo Federation, I think it's called, and can no longer be a rodeo clown now.
Rodeo clowns are they're athletes. They really are.
I mean, you know more about it than I do, self-admittingly.
Their job is to distract the bull. I mean, they are very athletic in order to be able to run around from the bull and
never mind wearing a mask on your head. I don't care which mask it is.
Yeah, it's a very difficult job, and they're literally putting their lives out there
to save the riders,
to help save the riders.
Absolutely.
That are there. So to be disbarred for this, look, there was an incident in 1994 where George H.W. Bush mask was propped up by a broomstick as a decoy during a bull riding event. So, like you said before, this isn't the first time presidential masks have been used, but because this president happens to be black, the world or the liberals are losing their minds.
Well, and it's not even because he's black; it's because they can exploit.
No, the NAACP would not be involved
if he was white.
If he was a white president in this mask,
well,
whether he was liberal or not. The liberal media may have still been upset.
But this is the arm that the progressives have.
This is
to
one
make this
arm.
This is one of the many arms.
This is the arm that the black
So
progressives
they look at
have,
the
I would
situation and they say, okay, how can I? Let's go to the NAACP. Have them release a thing right now. This is progressive thinking in this country.
Well,
folks.
the NAACP is progressive. I don't think there was a progressive Oz wizard that said, you know what, you go and do this. I think the NAACP did this on their own. I have no reason. Look, there.
Yeah, but it was after people got outraged and they realized. And you say there's not a political Oz, and maybe there's not.
Progressive Oz that would direct the NAACP to do this. I think they would do this on their own anyways.
I'd like to check David Axelrod's phones.
Okay.
Or his emails or something, because you can't tell me that somebody didn't get to them and say, hey, you know what, I really need you to do me a favor. Release a statement.
Well, why wouldn't the Democratic Black Caucus do it? Or, I mean, there's a bunch of other...
Because the NAACP has, in the last 10 years, been used on these absolute reaches of ridiculousness to try to get the ball rolling. If the Black Caucus does it from the floor, then politicians, you don't want. But if you're the NAACP and you're a nonprofit organization that's supposed to be defending people, then
okay, but why
job.
not the ACLU? Why not? I mean, there are a bunch of other groups who could come out also. I think the NAACP
I'm sure they will.
came out because this president is black and they want to find controversy and everything, and they want to punish conservatives that denigrate the president or whatever. I think that I don't see an outside force doing this. I think this is something that they would do completely on their own because they're crazy enough to do it. Don't get me wrong. The progressive movement in whole went nuts over this.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny to me is why the president hasn't come out and said, hey, you know what? Presidents have been getting made fun of for
hundreds of years.
Ever.
Yeah.
And you people should all relax. Now, maybe he shouldn't say you people because it's the NAACP, and they may take offense to that, even though he himself is black. But you know what I'm getting at.
Because he's golfing right now.
Right. Right, with his dog.
With his dog. Which, it's funny, and talk about that real quick, is everyone's having the outrage about the dog, and I said, I understand. I understand he overspends. They just got back from their $10 million trip to Africa, and now they're going to Chilmark, which is absolutely beautiful, by the way. But the fact that his dog was on the secondary plane, and it was probably like one of those things where like, we got to get the dog over there for a photo op. How are we going to do it? Throw him in with the rest of the cargo. They're making too much out of this. Like, the girls got there, and they were like, we can't be here without Bo. Bo is a photo prop for this president, this dog. He was with the baggage. He was literally with the Secret Service agents on an Osprey. So for me, I don't even think that's that much of a story as people are trying to make that out to be.
Well, have you seen a picture of Bo?
Yes.
What's he look like? He's black and white.
Yes, you're right.
So shouldn't we all learn something from that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is like representative of. So I don't know. But obviously, black and white can come together and form something as beautiful as Bo
on a V-22 Osprey,
right?
And land beautifully in Chilmark, Massachusetts.
America, you need to look at a picture of Bo. Search yourselves, and we need to come together.
I'm not saying the dog has a terrible life, but let's be honest. You only see that dog once every. It doesn't follow him everywhere. It's not. Listen, all the other presidents, when they've had dogs, the dogs have gone with them. You always see them walk into the helicopter and follow them behind, and when they go out and about, you see that. This dog is literally in a cargo hold.
I want to see a president walk a ferret. That's what I want to see.
Did you see his golfing pic? Now, you know, a lot of people may not know this, but when you're on vacation as the president, they're very restrictive about the media. That's like the one time where every president's like that, and I understand a little bit of family privacy. You live in that immense limelight. So
you ran for the office.
I agree with you, but as a family, you can kind of see every once in a while you want that break. So they very much limit the media on a lot of these trips. You can only, we'll only let you in to take pictures here, blah, 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 blah. So that he let people in to take pictures of him golfing, and he had the world's most ridiculous, like, fist pump, leg up in the air. And I'm like, how staged is that picture right now? Because there is no way he does that playing golf.
He might.
No way.
Why not?
Because he's not that good of a golfer.
How do you know?
He
goes
do
a lot.
Like that.
You cannot play golf as much as he does and not be
This is true.
damn near pro.
Maybe he's going to retire and go on the PGA Tour.
That's what I'm thinking. The Presidential Golfing Association. We got a phone call.
You want to take a phone call?
No.
Let's go to area code 832. Gene, you want to make a comment on the Rodeo Clown. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to...
Hi, Gene.
Excuse me. I just wanted to say, we're talking about something that has no purpose. I mean, so what? The guy wore, Obama mask during a rodeo. Who cares?
Exactly.
There's so many other things in this country that we need to be talking about and working on.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's just crazy.
And that's the thing that we brought up is this is being used as a smokescreen to get away from other things.
Always
and
is.
Absolutely is. And the mainstream media has pushed this narrative along completely, and they're going to keep it on the forefront of people's minds as long as they possibly can, because if it goes away, IRS is sitting there with Lerner.
Benghazi's coming back.
still coming back. You have the midterms coming up. I bet you they're going to try to ride this horse, so to speak, because it's a rodeo.
No, I get it.
Okay, good.
I would say bull, but
I don't know.
It's all bull.
Dude, I'm from Boston. The only bull we had is when somebody was trying to sling at you on a street corner.
And you, because that's what you sling.
But they're going to try to ride this, Gene, probably through September if they can get the legs out of it. This bull will be dead before they leave it alone.
Can you make any more bull jokes
No.
while we're going? Is this going to be another wiener thing where we go like 30 minutes just with double entendre?
No, because you can't. There's so much wiener jokes out there. I mean, it is just literally a mouthful. You can't get it all out at once. So that one we can carry for a full half hour. This one, I'm going to have to cut it soon. We have a break coming up. Greg's going to be on. I can't just sit here and shoot the bull all night with you about this.
Right. There's more at stake here.
Hey, Greg, thank you for the call. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
But he does have a point. This is so far to the forefront, and I haven't even seen like any Republicans or conservatives come out and say, "Are you kidding me?" And I could be wrong if they're wrong.
No, we're doing it right now. Wait, listen. Are you kidding me? There, see, we did it. That's what this whole segment's been about.
I don't mean pundits, but I mean politicians who are like, "Really? You're going to let this happen right now? This is a big deal."
You know why? Because politicians are. If they do, then they're racist. And they don't want to risk that.
That's a good point. God forbid.
God forbid they have the balls
God forbid
to come
you
out.
sided with Tuffy the rodeo clown.
I would have more respect if they had the testicular fortitude to come out and say, "Hey, knock it off. The guy's a rodeo clown. Look, here's how many pictures of other presidents. They sell presidential masks. Are they like party time? Are they like racist because they sell presidential masks? Really? You can't wear it during a rodeo event?
Well,
what if I wear an Obama mask as a Halloween costume?
Well,
am I a racist?
It depends.
On?
Are you taking candy from people?
Well, yeah.
So people could construe that.
Well, hang on a second. Now, if I take candy from people because I'm trick-or-treating and I give it to other kids that don't have as much candy, I'm redistributing candy. Therefore,
you would be ideally along the guidelines.
But would the
president.
progressives make fun of me because?
No, you would be hailed a hero.
Would I?
Yeah.
but I'm not black. So would they
But if you have the
think that
mask
I'm
on-
mocking?
And the way you dance, you'd never be able to tell.
No, this is true.
So that's Tuffy the rodeo clown and the NAACP. God, it's just so frustrating that we live in a time where this is, instead of this just being funny.
No, you know what's frustrating? What's frustrating is we live in a time not where this happens, but where the American people allow this to happen.
That's exactly
what's
what
frustrating,
I'm saying.
because it's our own fault. If enough Americans stood up and said, "Are you kidding me? This is completely ridiculous." It is an American tradition not only to shoot guns, but it's an American tradition to make fun of the president of the United States, no matter who it is.
Right. Yeah, of course. That's what we do. That's our whole show, and that's what other people have done for a long time. It's just part of being an American, folks. Just deal with it.
I mean, look at the liberal culture when George W. Bush was in office. I mean, you had these assassination attempts and talks and so forth, but he was mocked so much, especially on Saturday Night Live, The Daily Show. I mean, he was mocked constantly, always shown as not being intelligent and so forth. Yet anybody says anything or just wears an Obama mask at a rodeo for some event, and people lose their minds.
Well, and I was having a Twitter conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, well, he's not the king, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but he gets treated like he is. People go running to his defense all the time. He's never wrong in the eyes of mainstream media, and he is this Fabergé egg that, God forbid, you actually say something that's a little condescending. You must be a racist, or you must be some sort of right-wing nutter. You're a bitter clinger. Somebody said to me, oh, are you one of those bitter clingers? I said, yeah. I bitterly cling to the Constitution. I bitterly cling to my liberty and my freedom. Now, I also bitterly cling onto my guns, too, because that's my right as an American. And to have that taken away is ridiculous. But just the simple fact that I could be called a bitter clinger and there's no negative connotation in that, and people use it all the time.
Right.
But if I turn around and I'm like, oh, progressive, you're just a socialist, people go out of their minds. And that's the nation that we live in now. It's so one-sided. And because they have all the control in the media. And that's what it comes down to. Not all of it, because we're here. But I'm
gonna go off topic for a second, because I'm looking at your shirt, which I really like.
Thank
it's
you.
The American flag with kind of the Gadsden flag kind of blended in together, and the Gadsden flag has the coiled rattlesnake.
I'll tweet
on
it. I'll send it out.
And that's kind of a big symbol for a lot of the conservative movement, especially the Tea Party groups and so forth. Do you remember the Cobra dance from Dodgeball? From the movie Dodgeball, with like the snake heads in both their hands that come up? Wouldn't that be awesome? If there was like a similar dance, like a conservative dance or something, but instead
a conservative interpretive dance?
Right, but instead of the cobras, it's like the rattlesnake that's like coming up with both hands. I think that would be great.
Bang, bang. Can you do me a favor? Can you choreograph that? And maybe we can push that out by 2016.
I've been doing it in my head for the last 27 minutes while I've been staring at your shirt. I just finally had to say something about it.
All right.
I don't know how my mind works. I randomly just kind of go off on tangents.
I know how your mind works. Sometimes it's amazing, and then sometimes. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, Greg Phillips from Voters Trust will join us. Stick around. We'll see you in 3.
I'm Lori, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn on how the founders viewed God as the source of our equality and legal rights.
America's founders knew, obviously, that human beings are not equal in terms of strength or beauty, or in terms of intelligence, industry, or talents. They understood that because of such differences in talents and things like that, some people will be wealthier than others. But human beings are equal, the founders believe, in their possession of natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. Today, many Americans reject this equality of rights in order to pursue equality of condition through redistribution, or spreading the wealth around, to use a famous formulation. This is destructive of liberty as the Founders understood it.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PoliticalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PoliticalNetwork.com or Twitter at PoliticalUSA.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And welcome back. Phone number is 347-205-9399. This is part 2 of the Sackheads Radio Show. On the phone with
Part
us
two?
right now. Yeah, it's like part 2.
Of 4 parts, not like the
two.
second half.
I thought we talked about this.
You're confusing me right now.
Why are you doing this?
Because you change terminology
Greg's
all
on
the
phone.
time.
He's on
Oh, he
the
is?
phone.
We
yes.
don't argue in public. I apologize.
All right. Jeez Louise. Anyhow, sorry about that. Clint wasn't paying attention. Greg Phillips from Voters Trust is on the phone with us. Greg, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Hey, it
Thanks
is
for coming
a
on the
pleasure. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into Voters Trust.
You know, I'm really just, like everybody else, just sort of an ordinary guy who at one point in his life probably identified himself as a Republican. I'm a little bit older than some of the folks these days, but I really was a Reagan Republican and did some work in that revolution and worked for state parties in Alabama and Mississippi and have been involved in governor's races and all sorts of things all over the place. But at some point in the last, 7, 8, 10 years, I stopped feeling a lot less like a Republican and a little more like a conservative. What I learned along the way was that so many of us are starting to feel that way. I can go places and make speeches, and people come up to me and say, I feel the same way. I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm a conservative. And that's where I find myself now, 53 years old, a grandfather with a couple of kids, a dog, and really just looking forward to trying to find a way to get conservative voice back into the picture.
So tell us about Voters Trust. Is that one way that you're trying to focus that effort? Yeah,
we Voters Trust is sort of a conglomeration of a couple of different entities. Back several years ago, Speaker Gingrich started a group called American Solutions. I was then involved shortly after that in last year with the presidential super PAC, Winning Our Future. And when it was all said and done, I think the one thing that everybody was clear about was that it really didn't matter whether it was Romney or Newt or either of the Ricks or anybody else. We couldn't have won because we didn't have a ground game. We just weren't ready to go. What we've created the Voters Trust to be is a perpetual conservative ground game, somewhere where we could all come together, whether we be social conservatives or national security conservatives or economic conservatives. We could all come together. None of us take a back seat to the other one. Everybody stand together and begin to build our future around the conservative ideals.
So what is it that happened in American politics that kind of led you down this road?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think watching in '96 as we sort of stumbled and bumbled our way and picked the guy that was next in line with Bob Dole, and then of course we had fared a little bit better in 2000, 2004, but then we turn around and we pick a guy that really nobody really liked. I don't think anybody really thought he could win, and sure enough, not only did we not win, but we sort of got slaughtered by Obama. In the form of John McCain, and then we did the exact same thing again in 2012. And I think that folks like me and a lot of my friends and people that I know, we're just tired of it. We're tired of losing races and losing elections that we should be winning.
We've talked about this. I am not a fan at all of our two-party system. Washington warned us against it. I think that the parties are far too powerful, and that's kind of given us our watered-down candidates from the Republican side of the party. So I identify myself as a conservative. I'm libertarian in some of my views. I don't consider myself a Republican anymore, along the lines that you were talking about. But where do you think that the Republican Party strayed? I mean, between the end of Reagan's term and the end of the Reagan era, what happened to the party?
Yeah, I think I can be pretty clear on this particular point. The Republican establishment became so entrenched, and the political elite, these consultants that make $1 zillion off of every single campaign that are out there. It doesn't matter whether they win or lose. They're in charge, and it's all about money, power, and control. I think that these consultants and the GOP establishment has just led us down a path where they get to go to their meetings a couple times a year and enjoy themselves and get drunk and throw up in the bar and do all these things, and 4 years later we're destined to be forced to either hold our nose and go support John McCain or support a guy like Mitt Romney or stand back and say, you know what, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm just going to stay home. We'll show them. Too many of us are doing that, and what the Voters Trust is formed to be is a place for those folks to go. It's a place for the 20 million conservative Americans who stayed home in 2012 to come together and realize that together we're going to be a heck of a lot stronger against that GOP establishment than we will be, fussing amongst each other about whether it's important to have a sound fiscal house or all the social issues be taken care of. Let's all stand together and realize they all put us in one bucket. So let's stay in that bucket. All of us as conservatives stand up and let's start fighting back. That's the only way we're going to take this thing, because the only thing that these people really understand is power and strength in numbers. And it's too long that we've been separated.
I agree with you 100%. Do you think that there needs to be the formation of perhaps a third party, or that the party system in its entirety should be dismantled, so there's more vote and debate along the lines of ideology as opposed to a letter?
Well, I think that I don't necessarily believe that there's any real way in politics today to start a third party and to really make it stick. We're going to end up with something like we ended up with in 1992, where Perot came in and took 14-15% of the vote and gave us Bill Clinton when he only got 42% of the vote. So I think to an extent we risk that, but what we risk more is not coming together. By not coming together and not focusing on what we all have in common and what we all believe in, and taking 15, 20, 25 million of us to in some form to a Republican convention, in essence, sort of taking it over, if you will, with our voices and with the strength of those numbers, and simply saying to them, look, we won't vote for your guy unless you see it, you begin to see things our way. One of my good friends in D.C. called it sort of mutually assured destruction. So, and in a way, that's it. I mean, we come in and we say, look, if you don't, see some of this our way and start moving a little further to the right, we're simply not going to support your guy, and you're going to lose again. That's really the only way in those platform committees on the floor of the convention with these delegates that we'll ever have any strength at all, is if we come together as a group.
What if the Tea Party movement kind of sprung off as a conservative movement from the Republican Party? What if the Boll Weevil movement came back within the Democratic Party? So almost like a I don't want to say Democrats' answer to the Tea Party, but kind of a conservative. Some of the Blue Dogs became even more conservative, and there's a secondary Boll Weevil movement within the Democratic Party that we saw when Reagan was in office. Would Voters Trust support a Boll Weevil candidate from the Democratic side?
One of the great things about the Voters Trust is that we formed this thing to be the people's trust, and that word's really important to us, so that we all work together and trust each other to come up with the right answer and the right solution. I think that all this time we've been sitting here listening to the GOP chairman, whomever he was. We've been listening to all these people sort of pontificate, tell us what we think. Their consultants go out and spend $1 billion of our money supporting ideas and pushing things that we don't believe in. And it all stems from one individual telling us how we should think. How we conceived the Voters Trust was to have we're going to create an environment where all of us pitch in. So if the 10 million members of the Voters Trust or 20 million members or however many people that we get to sign up for this decide that that's what we want to do and that's what we're going to support, then that's the direction we're going to go. For the first time ever, it's not going to be about the political consultants. It's not going to be about the political elite. It's not going to be about the chairman of the RNC or anybody else. It's going to be about the people, my friends, your friends, people that we're talking to every day, people that are listening to your show.
Well, and that's something, too, that it's been needed for a long time now. And as we've watched these entrenched politicians, both Republican and Democrat, sit in there and they run the status quo, and it's their narrative, not the narrative of the party per se. And you have your Lindsey Graham's is the one that comes to right away in my mind when I think of somebody who's been there too long, is not listening to the constituents that elected him, does what he wants, and give in. John McCain's another one who, the last 4 years has just gone so far. I mean, he should change parties at this point.
He's a progressive.
He is absolutely a progressive, and he's more Democrat than half the Democrats out there. And that's something that I think people need to identify and realize that when you're talking about the people taking over in that party, taking that party back, that you need to look at these people for what they say and what they mean versus just going out and give good speeches. And because this is what happens. This is the form of the government that we have now, that they're not listening to the constituents. The Boehner, or as we call him on the show, Boner, he doesn't listen to a lot of people in the party. And then, when you have somebody like Rand Paul that comes out and stands up, and Ted Cruz, and people in their own party are insulting them and degrading them and not even disagreeing with them in a professional manner, that shows you how bad off the GOP is right now and how they will never win until they get on the same page. And I think it's great that that's what you're trying to do. We need that more and more.
Well, I think the people see that too. One of the things that I was reflecting on, you were talking about South Carolina and Lindsey Graham. I spent a lot of time in South Carolina last year during the presidential race on behalf of the super PAC that we were running, and I can tell you that the reason that Newt walked away with that, of course, he had a genius performance in the debate and everything went great and everybody clapped and loved him and they were going to vote for him. But what was happening sort of on the ground amongst the people is they were absolutely rejecting Mitt Romney and what he stood for. They were simply rejecting it. And it wasn't so much that they were voting for Newt. It might have been Rick Perry. It might have been Rick Santorum. It might have been one of the other guys or ladies. But The reality was when you got into the field and onto the ground and you started talking to these folks, they would simply say, look, I'm just more conservative than he is. I simply can't support him. I'll never support Mitt Romney. What's interesting about Lindsey Graham is, at least as far as this year is concerned and this Congress is concerned, he seems to be further left than even the people perceive Romney to be. I can't imagine that the people of South Carolina, and I don't live there, I do own some property there, but I can't imagine the people of South Carolina are going to put up with that. Now there's going to be a bitter fight between the establishment and the conservatives in this primary possibly, but I tell you it's a war waiting to happen, and I think it's potentially ground zero for what I've been talking about. The people are tired of this. We're tired of having these liberal candidates shoved down our throat. We're tired of being told we're stupid, to shut up, go sit down, we'll see you when we get to the White House, we don't need you, we don't want to talk to you. The truth is, they do need us. They do need to talk to us, and they do need to understand what we're saying because we're simply not going to go away. The Tea Party's voice is what brought us 2010. That's the truth. The reality is we need more than just the Tea Party. We need the Tea Party plus. We need to collect around an idea that being conservative is okay. It's what America's all about. It's what's going to save America for my new grandson, and it's what some of these Republican politicians are going to have to wake up and understand, or they're going to find themselves sitting at home.
I have a great tagline for you to use. Voters trust the voters trust the revolution begins here.
I love that. I do.
Yeah, you
I
can
love
use
that.
You know,
and it goes along with what we were saying before I hopped on the show. You know, if we just talk in 140 characters and we can get it all in, we can just sit here and you know, just do this by tagline. It might be fun for your audience to just have a show by tagline.
I just summed it up right there.
Yeah, that was less than 140.
Yeah, that was less than 140. So you can use that, and now it's even on tape and in perpetuity here, recorded on the show.
We'll make sure that gets tweeted out. Saka. So. He wasn't paying attention. That's our engineer, Liz.
So I have a question for you, sir. How does you talked about getting the ground game going, and in a society, unfortunately, in a society that we have where we have a large segment of the population who are ill-informed. And when I say ill-informed, it's because people are so frustrated and fed up they don't pay attention to the news or pay attention to what's going on in politics. Or I guarantee you half the people don't know the laws that Governor Jerry Brown signed into effect with the transgender student thing. And either that or their education has poorly provided them with critical thinking skills, and so they simply regurgitate the trash that's shoved down their throat that they were forced to memorize for some essay or some test. How do you get that going in terms of number one, just getting getting people out to vote, conservatives out to vote, but number two, informing people about what the issues are and what our history is, so that there's that level of understanding so that we have intelligent voters out there. I actually read a study where people that are conservative, most people that are conservative tend to have read both sides of a particular issue, whereas those that are liberal tend to have only read liberal writings or liberal essays and so forth. So how do you get that education out there in order to, number one, expand the conservative base, and number two, like you were talking, getting that ground game going and getting the vote out?
Well, it's a combination of things, and you're right on target with all of it. I did a blog series on my personal blog, jumpvote.com, about the simple math of elections, and it really is a simple math. It was, I guess, first enunciated or written for us all by a guy named Steve Shattuck, Congressman John Shattuck's dad, back in 1958. He ended up being Goldwater's get out the vote guy in the South and really put together. You know, Goldwater didn't win too many states back in '64, but he did win the South, and the reason was that they had an amazing approach to this ID and get out the vote effort. The first thing is you have a base. Everybody's got a base, right? The Republicans have a base, the Democrats have a base, and to an extent now I think the conservatives are even developing a base. But
Absolutely.
Nevertheless, the base is really easy to understand. Where the Republican establishment goes wrong is they believe that that's where elections are won. They believe that if they just solidify their base And if they go out and they try to move to the left and try to get those people that are sort of in the middle, that math is enough, that math will get them there. But the reality is, as Steve Shadegg wrote back in '58, was that you have that base, but you also have another segment. The media loves to call them the independents. They're really not. They're undecideds. Those people are high information voters. They almost always vote. They rarely stay home. They're not ideologues like the base voters are, who say, I'm going to vote for a Republican no matter what happens. They're going to vote for, they're going to educate themselves as best they can. They're going to read all the literature. They're going to watch the debates, and they're going to say, I'm going to vote for Romney or I'm going to vote for Obama. And those are two key but very different segments, and you approach those people in different ways. But there's a third segment, and what Shadegg said in his book is one of the directions that we're going to take the voters' trust, and it's some of those people that you were talking about. He called them the indifferents. Those indifferents are the people that really don't care. They don't know about politics. They'd rather be at a concert than they would be home watching a debate. They'd rather be out drinking beer or duck hunting or deer hunting, or if they're in the South, or out surfing or whatever if they're on the West Coast. They just don't care. And those indifferents are the ones that Obama has tapped now for two cycles, 2008, 2012, with this thing that's now called Organizing for America. It used to be Obama for America. But what they did was they went out and put people on the ground in key areas. There's a reason that Obama did so well in South Florida. He had 700 people on the ground, 700 people for 4 years looking for those indifferents. Looking for the indifferents. And then when it came to election time, they were already their friends. They lived down the street from them. They got them on the buses. They took them up to the election. All the while, we're spending, the Romney campaign is spending, $250 million in some of these markets trying to get people to the polls. But they had already been sort of outflanked because the people they were getting to the polls were their base voters and what they were going to get out of the undecideds. What Obama figured out was that the Shadegg theory of these indifferents make the difference. They really do make the difference. So what we've got to do is we've got to go out and we've got to find those folks. We've got to ask our friends while we're drinking a beer with them, or if we're out in a duck blind with them, or if we're hanging out with whatever, you don't vote. Why? What's up with that? And learn a little bit about these people and begin the process of recruiting. And it's got to be a one-on-one thing. It can't be it's not going to be an air game. We're not going to spend $1 zillion and get that surfer to the polls. The only way to get him to the polls is to have someone pick him up at his house and take him to the polls. It's not fraud. I mean, I know we love to. I'm an aficionado of the way these Democrats commit the voters' fraud. That's not one of the ways that they do it. It's okay to pick people up on buses and take them to the polls. They do it. We don't, and that's why we're losing these elections. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to make a very strong and concerted effort, not only to sort of solidify the piece of the base that the Karl Roves of the world are dividing. So we're going to pull all the base back together. We're going to get our piece of those undecideds, the conservative piece of the undecideds. But we're also going to spend a lot of time finding these indifferents between now and 2016. We're going to start in 2014, 5 states, 1 governor's race, 4 Senate races, and we're going to sort of do a proof point in 2014. As we move into 2016, we will not only have momentum, but we'll have people on the ground. We'll have lists built, and and finally, when we come out of the convention in say August of 2016, and whoever it is that gets nominated looks around at each other like, okay, what do we do now? We're out of money. We don't really have a really big list. We've got this cool technology that everybody's talking about, and hey, we're ready to go. What the voters' trust is going to be there to do is to hopefully pick up those pieces, because that's a losing strategy. If they do it again in 2016 against Hillary, we'll lose again. and we just can't do it.
I think, and I'm wondering what your thoughts on it. I believe that another reason the Republicans have lost the elections they have, the presidential elections, has been because they isolate. They need their base, and then they go after some of the what they call independents. But in going after those independents or moving to some more moderate or more liberal-leaning positions, they actually lose a lot of a portion of their base.
Yep, absolutely right. I called it the politics of division in my blog series, and that's exactly what they do. They look at this as though there is a finite number of people, and they're going to get all of them in their base, and they make their mission to try to find those undecideds and say, hey, we need to get y'all to vote for us. It just doesn't work. I mean, what they've got to do is they've got to understand that the biggest part of their base that's not coming to the polls, 24 million people in 2008 and 18 million people in 2012, all conservatives, all stayed home.
So, in your opinion, what's the biggest issues that is facing not facing the Republican Party, but what are going to be the biggest issues in order to get people on board with the conservative movement? What are the biggest issues right now? Because I mean, like you indicated earlier, some people are conservative in different areas, but I think there's a few key areas where a majority of the population sits. And I don't know how you mobilize conservatives in every issue in every area. I would think, and I could be wrong. You're the expert here. That you would have to pick a few key conservative points to kind of key on and get them motivated to get that draw as you're starting this up. What are those issues, do you think?
Well, you're right on target. I mean, first I think you have to look back to 2010 and what really happened. What is it that really brought the Tea Party folks together, and that was Obamacare and what it was going to do to the economy and potentially what it was going to do to the tax base, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't know that then, but those great people from all over the United States, all walks of life, all colors, all creeds, everything came out to say, look, we cannot spend ourselves into oblivion. So number one, pretty much across the board, I think many conservatives can agree that I read continually that the federal debt is at 17 trillion or something insane like that. But if you add in if you add in all the unfunded mandates, if you add in any kind of present value calculation for all the debt that's out there across the United States, both issued and unissued, all of the things that we're responsible for, the real number is something like 50 trillion. But we don't do a good job of helping people understand just what that means. What does 50 trillion mean to my newborn grandson? What does that mean to you, Sam?
I think it's so abstract that people can't grasp it, or it's very difficult for people to grasp once you throw out a number that big. It'd be great to have a graphic running 24 hours on a website of $100 bills just going through and saying, hey, it would take 7 years for these $100 bills passing by you at 2 a second to reach the amount of debt the U.S. has or something. I mean, I think that number is just so abstract for people to grasp just out of thin air just hearing that number.
Well, who uses money anymore anyhow?
Right. Yeah, and
everything's on a card.
Everything's a card, right?
Yeah. So there's no connection made.
But what we as conservatives can do, though, is we can begin, as my friend Lee Habib says, we can begin to tell the stories. We can begin to relate it in a way that people can understand it. We can help people understand why it is that 50 million Americans are on food stamps. Do you know the reason why? I'll tell you real quick, just this sort of an anecdote, but this is the type of story we need to tell America. The reason that 50 million people are on food stamps and why we had such a significant jump in 2009, you can chart it, you can look back to the day that he did it. Obama allowed the states to opt out of proving assets. How much do you have? What do you own before you go get food stamps? It used to be you had to prove assets, you had to prove income. You only have to prove income now, and because that's hard to follow, all they do is they say, well, I have zero income, and they give them their food stamps. But the reality is if you have $1 million home, if you have a Ferrari, you've heard all the stories, right? This guy had a brand new BMW, and he walked in there with a food stamp card. Well, The reason is we stopped checking assets. We don't check them anymore. Millionaires can get food stamps now.
Well, we don't want to insult anybody.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. Why would we do that, right?
Hey, we don't check IDs to vote, so why should we check assets for food stamps and welfare?
Well, yeah, exactly. So for me, I mean, it's more about learning to tell the stories. What does Obamacare really mean? Does it mean that people are going to lose their jobs? It certainly means the end of the 40-hour work week, right?
It means the end of the American Republic as we know it. And I'm not being dramatic. That's absolutely what it means.
Right, but that's the story we need to tell. So when we go out and we're trying to rally the troops and get folks involved and get folks interested in what we're saying, and you're sitting there with your buddy who doesn't vote, and you're explaining to him that we're $50 trillion in debt, but here's what that means to you. So if they add Obamacare on top of all of this, here's what it means to you. Your 40-hour job is going to go to a 30-hour job. You're going to lose this. Your tax rates are going to go up to this, and we make it real for people. So I think that's the way that we do it. That's really, in a sense, what the Tea Party did for us in 2010. They made it real. They made it understandable. It was real people. It wasn't the demagogues up there. It wasn't the political elite. It wasn't the consultants. It was real people standing up on stages all over America saying, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going broke. We're not going to borrow money to pay for borrowed money anymore. This is ridiculous. And those are the kinds of things I think that people are going to have to really step up and say.
We're up against a break. Would you mind holding on with us and coming back after the break?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys.
Great. I have one thing I want to add, and then I'd like to get your take on it when we come back on the food stamp thing. I think it's the Department of Agriculture was spending taxpayer dollars to push out commercials, and on the Hispanic channels, in Spanish, they actually had soap operas, like mini soap opera series about getting people on food stamps. So you're spending taxpayer dollars to spend taxpayer dollars. Makes perfect sense in our country, folks. Back in a minute.
We'll be back in 3 with Greg Phillips from VotersTrust.com here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, if you care about what's going on in the world, you cannot afford to miss my show. Hi, this is Andrea Kaye, your host of The Andrea Kaye Show. It's not always about the money. Okay, it is always about the money, but it's also about politics, pop culture, and you. The only thing street about this show is the smarts. There's a reason they call me Dynamite in a Dress, and you'll find out why when you listen Tuesday mornings at 10 on Financial News and Talk.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Welcome back. Phone number is 347-205-9399. We're live with Greg Phillips from VotersTrust.com. He's telling us all about it.
I have a story to tell.
Okay.
So this show kind of operates like a ship, like a finely tuned vessel, a finely tuned
like
nautical machine of awesomeness. And there always has to be somebody at the helm.
Right.
So the two on-air personalities, Sean and Clint, go outside for a breath of air and to discuss, leaving Sackhead Sacco
in charge of the ship.
In charge of the ship.
He's
at
the number
helm,
3 guy.
Right?
You got it.
Number 3 guy. You got the helm.
Really good.
And usually, you salute and you do your duty, right? Well, what happens? We hear the door open. Doo-doo-doo. Out comes strolling Sackhead Sacco. And the door, click, click, shuts behind him. And so we look. Who's running the ship? And Sacco's like, I don't know. And the door's locked. So we had to break the window in order to come back in because that's how committed to this show we are. I think Sean might have cut his hand or scraped his leg or something. Sacco cried.
Right. Well, when Mom and Dad are fighting,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. You know, he's literally standing in the corner right now on timeout, tears streaming down his face. We took away his yo-yo and his whoopee, and here we are. Made it back just in time.
All that in 3 minutes. I mean, really, we do a lot in the show.
Listen, when you're a finely tuned machine, you can't let it run by itself.
No, I am totally with you.
I digress.
Greg's probably thinking to himself, what the hell have
why
I
did I call into this show?
No, I'm thinking I can't possibly follow this. This is
You're doing a great job. And you know what? We're different because we're conservatives with a sense of humor. There's not enough of these shows out there, which is fortunate because we've kind of cornered the market. I'm pretty sure the Justice Department is going to investigate us for like monopoly fraud or something.
Monopoly money
There's
fraud.
only one of your type of show.
they're locked and loaded outside where you are, and I'm sure that they're about to bust in my door too. So.
But you know what? At least we'll all be together wherever we go. Guantanamo, some unnamed prison in the middle.
And you know what? That's why Sacco came outside, because we didn't have our phones and he didn't know what we were doing. That goes back to my NSA thesis, folks, from the beginning of the show. I just figured it out.
Maybe they can give all those Guantanamo guys that are doing the food boycott or not eating. Maybe they can just give them food stamps so that they can eat.
But first, they should release them here in America.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's after they get a trial.
Right. No,
Let's make sure they get a civilian trial.
No, listen. They've been incarcerated long enough. They should just time served and be released.
Just put them out in Chicago. They won't last a weekend.
Yeah, they would run away petrified. You know what? That's what we should be deporting all of our felony, violent, illegal aliens to, is Chicago.
Absolutely, because there's no guns there, so violence is probably way down. Nobody would be able to get a gun there. There's no stop and frisk laws or anything, so I think that's a good place for them. There's no way they
like
can
the
commit
guy
crime
from
there.
Yemen that trained the whole time with Al-Qaeda and he gets arrested and goes to Guantanamo and they're like, all right, we'll drop you off in Chicago. And he's like, yes! He hits the ground and like 5 minutes later he gets robbed, beaten, and all he wants to do is get back on the plane. Like, seriously, just put me back in Guantanamo. It was so much better there. All I had to do was not eat.
And then some gang guy can just shoot him, run him over with the car, and just leave him there. Nobody will even know what happened to him.
Well, yeah.
DHS loses people all the time. Maybe that's what happens. They disappear in Chicago.
Well, and which is weird because you think such a small government agency like DHS would be so much better organized. But I digress because apparently
the federal government's always very well organized. I mean, they are the best at running things.
It's as many times as we've made that joke on the show, it's still funny because it's still sad how much satire.
Because it's ludicrous. I mean, that's a line out of a Mel Brooks movie. I mean, that's how ludicrous that statement is. I mean, Dark Helmet would say that on Spaceballs, right?
Ludicrous speed, go!
Yeah, the government's great at running things. Kills the whole movie.
Oh, man.
Hey, we have a call.
We ain't found shit.
That's one of the best lines of that whole movie. So we have a call in the air. Greg, you'll have to excuse me. I have to play an intro or I'll never hear the end of it. This is a good friend of ours.
Red, white, and blue. That's a joke, son. A flag waver.
A good friend, Rooster, over at the blog conservativeoutcry.net, is on the phone, and he had a couple questions he wanted to ask you.
Good evening, Rooster.
How are you all doing?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, but, we're not all going to be together. And you guys go where you want. You know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in the Appalachians, and just look for the signs. Wolverines. It's an honor, Mr. Phillips.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
Hey, Rooster, before you ask your first question, though, I do have one in the chat room I want to get to, and this is from J.D. Winter, and it's for Greg.
Okay.
And it says, are you working with any specific grassroots groups in any specific areas right now, Greg, or is Voters Trust, I should say?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we've decided to do with this is to not do it the way that it's been done for the last 30 years, where people walk in with a super PAC or some sort of an organization and say, all right, we're in charge, we're taking over the get out the vote effort, and we're going to win this thing, and then go away and screw it up and lose it, and duplicative effort, et cetera, et cetera. What we've decided to do is to combine forces with all of the people that are already on the ground, have initial meetings. We've targeted Ohio first, and we've got our first set of planning meetings in Ohio 2 weeks from today, I think, on the 28th. And we're going to kind of divvy it up and say, you go do this and somebody else do that, and we'll pick up what's left and try to be more of a complement than an actual principle in the effort. I think it's the way the Democrats do their work, and they do this organization thing a whole lot better than we do. The unions will come together with OFA, and they'll come together with the campaigns, and they'll do all the things that they do really, really well, and they'll cram it down our throat. And so we're gonna learn a lesson from our enemy, and see if we can't pick up a few. See if we can't pick up a few counties and a few areas of support that would normally have been lost amongst the conservatives.
Excellent. That's amazing. It's needed to happen for so long now, and the conservative parties, like you said, they're so splintered. There's no unity, and it's a godsend at this point. The fact that somebody's like, "Hey, I have a good idea. Why don't we try to work together and actually be on the same page about something?"
Or, hey, I have an idea. The other side is doing a really great job at something, but we're not going to do it that way because it's the other side. I think the fact that you're taking a page from their playbook, so to speak, and they're doing something that's successful, I think it's outstanding that you're.
And we've talked about that in the show in the past. Is, hey, you got to beat them at their own game. Or
just beat them, which I'm a fan of sometimes.
Whether you like it or not, good. You look at any good leader in the military general when they're coming up with a battle plan. They've studied the battle plans of other successful leaders and generals, and they've adapted that to their situation. Whether you
and they've read Sun Tzu. Let's be real.
Whether you like or dislike where it's coming from, if it's successful, you use it. And I think that's something that really needs to happen. Rooster, you had a couple questions before I hang up on you. Before I chime in. So why don't you go ahead, sir?
Well, I wanted to say actually that Greg and I actually think alike, and I was
Greg, I'm
happy
so
to hear
sorry.
a lot of things. Well, I'll take it back a little bit, guys. Who, not patting myself on the back or nothing, but I did predict that Romney would lose. Ahead of the game. In fact, nobody on that stage could have won.
For a second.
What?
For a second. You flipped a coin, and you happened to get the right head up, and you said, "Nope, Romney's out."
No.
Yeah, and that's a rarity for you. You usually don't get the right head up. So what happened is you dropped the coin and you went to a package of bacon. Let's be real. And you said, okay, the part that says Oscar Mayer is heads, and the part with the nutrition information that I never read is tails.
That's
and you
me.
threw that up in the air.
All right. The hell with you both. Let me talk to Greg. Greg, thank you for following me, by the way. I will warn you, if you see the title of an article that I shamelessly plug all day long, it doesn't necessarily that means what's in an article. We actually disagree a little bit though on one thing. The reason I think that Mitt Romney lost is that Mitt completely disregarded the Tea Party, and he was counting on the anybody but Obama vote. And the difference between, say, conservatives and what I call the rhinos is the rhinos will vote for anybody but Obama, but a conservative won't. And if they don't like you, they're not going to come out to the polls. And he completely disregarded that segment of the populace. And I think that's why he lost.
Well, we don't disagree on that at all. I completely agree. I've got a couple of tweets that I'll try to go back and find. But when it was apparent that Romney was going to beat Newt, and I was still running the super PAC, and a little bit raw about a lot of the heat that I took for some of the pretty tough stands that we took against Romney. I was barraged by the Romneyites on Twitter, just calling me MF and whatever they could possibly think of to call me, and basically saying, look, we don't need you. And they weren't just saying it to me. They were saying it to all of Newt's supporters. They were saying it to Tea Party folks. They were saying it to everybody. It's that politics of division that I was talking about. And when you seek to divide your base, and you and or your supporters do things that divide your base, then you necessarily are going to lose, because the numbers simply don't work.
Exactly, but I don't think Newt could have won either. I'll be honest with you. I think
in retrospect, I don't either. But that wasn't my job. My job was to.
Okay.
My job was to win South Carolina, and we did.
Let me ask you a question. It's the same question that Greta posed to Rush Limbaugh when she interviewed him the other night.
Yeah.
Who do you look at now in the Republican Party that can make a run?
Well,
who do you expect?
Yeah, I have to tell you that I think that the answer is going to come from really a governor. With all due respect to Senator Paul and Rubio and some of these other characters that are running around the Senate now, great guys. I think they're doing some great things for America. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But the reality is that our strength is amongst these 30 governors. I'm not saying that we don't have some weak links in there. I went to a meeting recently with a number of these guys and ladies, and we have some really, really strong and conservative and almost populist kind of Republican governors out there right now that are really getting the job done. I think what's going to happen is some of these, like it was just how many months ago that Rubio was the guy, right? He was the man. He was going to be the nominee, and then all of a sudden he comes up with this immigration thing that upset everybody on or a lot of people on our side, and he goes from first to last.
That was him growing a horn.
Yeah, exactly. And
the same thing with Ryan when he said I'll never raise taxes, yet he voted to raise taxes. Yeah, and actually, I think it's a governor too. And I want to mention a governor, an ex-governor to you, and that's Sarah Palin.
Look, I've been personally a long-time supporter of Governor Palin. But I'm also a supporter of a lot of these guys that are in office, and ladies that are in office right now. I really seriously believe that the CEO type of experience that an individual gains by sitting in a governor's chair is critically important. Not only do they learn to work with legislatures sometimes that they don't, control or that they don't have party affiliation with, but they also are closer to the people. So it's the ability and the capability of understanding who Tea Party folks are. It's the capability of understanding why things are important to middle America, not middle class America, but middle America, and why things. I used to work for a guy named Kirk Fordyce. He was the governor of Mississippi back years ago. He's the most conservative guy on the planet. I don't think there has ever been a more conservative governor than Kirk Fordyce. This guy was tough as nails. I mean, he would the more he liked you, the more he chewed you up and spit you out. He would just laugh at you and call you stupid and do all this kinds of stuff. But there's
it's like being on our show.
He was the first governor elected twice in Mississippi. He was the first Republican governor since Reconstruction, and the reason was this. That guy, no matter what he did at the Capitol, no matter what he said to the Capitol, he used to describe it as that fat guy getting home from work. He's got him a six-pack of beer. He's sitting there with his wife on the sofa. They're watching the news or they're watching whatever, and they're flipping off. They're completely disgusted with what's going on that television. But that's the guy that if Kirk Fordyce would have walked in to that general store on the corner of 17 and 25, to get a piece of fried chicken, that would be the guy that Kirk Fordyce could relate to, and that's the reason that it will be a governor, because that sort of Kirk Fordyce effect. I hate to use the word populist because so the other side has made that sort of a racist kind of term, but I mean populist in the context.
Racist, though.
Yeah, well, populist in the context of being close to the people, and I don't mean necessarily like Obama's close to his people. I'm talking about being close to all the people, and that's what governors bring to you. So I sincerely believe it will be a governor next time, and not from Massachusetts.
Well, the reason I bring up the name Sarah Palin, it's not necessarily to run for office, but everything she touches turns to gold. And stop me if I'm wrong, but she was really the only one out front in 2010 promoting those Tea Party conservatives that took back the House. There wasn't anybody else out there. And, Ted Cruz was her work. He wouldn't be in office if it weren't for her and her money and her pull.
She stumped a lot for Ted Cruz. She really stood by him from the beginning, and she made no bones about it. She liked everything she liked about him, she put out there, and she stood by him to the end.
So my question is why the Republican Party won't use her? Mitt Romney didn't use her because they got into a little tit right there at the beginning. If you remember when she drove her bus up to one of his campaign stops. But why won't they use her and her pull? She pulls so much.
I could answer it simply and very with three words: money, power, and control. The consultants and the insiders, the political elite, the Republican establishment is absolutely and totally petrified of Governor Palin. They're afraid of the people that she touches. They're afraid of her because they don't even know who it is that supports her. They've never sent letters to the people that are the supporters of Governor Palin. She embodies in so many ways their failures in being able to reach out to us and knowing who these Tea Party groups are, and knowing who's bringing sort of her style to the table. And the folks in D.C., they just don't get it. They don't understand it. They want to demagogue it and say, well, she messed up that interview on ABC, and that's what blew the whole race for us. And she wore too nice of clothes, and she's too hot, and she's this and she's that. We don't need that in the Republican Party. Well, what they're saying is, We want to divide our base even further. We want to cut out all of those people. We don't care about the Tea Party people. We don't care about Governor Palin. We don't care about anybody that would ever even like her. Furthermore, we don't care about anybody that won't support our guy. Or our
and God
lady.
forbid we have a hot Republican.
I know, right?
That shoots moose.
Well,
hey,
I also
I just and if they do it again, they're going to lose.
Yeah, well, I
think they
so.
know that too.
Yeah, I really think we're gonna end up with a really strong leader. I think we're going to end up with somebody that sort of that Kurt Fordyce kind of a guy or lady that can really get in and not only roll up their sleeves and shake the hands of those folks at the corner store, but also speak to the people, directly, kind of Ronald Reagan style. And that's what governors do. That's not necessarily what the D.C. people do. They demagogue. They make stuff up. They lie to us. This newest nonsense about this Obamacare amendment that this congresswoman from West Virginia has cooked up, where they're gonna. It's the be sure that Congress is part of the Obamacare Act or whatever the heck it's called, but it exempts
but not their staff.
But not the staff. I
mean,
that's the kind of stuff that people like me and folks that are signing up for the Voters Trust are just tired of. We're disgusted of it. Enough is enough. No more of the lies. You keep your D.C. crap in D.C. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. We'll do.
I don't
this
even
from
want
the
it
state.
in D.C.
Yeah, I don't want it.
I want principled leaders in D.C. And that's why the revolution begins with you, right?
Yeah, maybe what we do is the revolution begins with you. I love that. Well, maybe what we do is we just put a big fence up around D.C. and just let them all go there and stay there, and we'll just run the rest of the country on our own.
Oh, no. Hold on, because I live in D.C., so I don't want to be...
Hey, good
get
luck,
out now.
Rooster.
Hurry.
Hey, I'm going to let you guys go, but I got one more question for Greg, and I'll hang up and let him address this. I call it pansy politics. Actually, I call it another word, but I told the guys I would be nice tonight. I think we need people that are willing to stand up on a debate stage and actually call somebody out, and call them for what they are. And you got Hillary. You know it's going to be Hillary coming up this time, and there are so many things that the public needs to know about Hillary. Do we have somebody that's willing to stand on stage and do that? And I'm gonna leave you with that. And if we don't have anybody, what do you think needs to be done, say in a debate that hasn't been done in the past? And guys, have a great night. Great show.
Thanks, Rooster.
Thanks, Rooster. Thanks for the call. Hey, look, I think I can answer that by saying that he was asking about Governor Palin and Hillary, and here's kind of somebody was sending me a note as I was talking, and it sort of reminded me that this is probably true. The person that sent me a note, she said that Governor Palin, even though she's an attractive and would be a really probably unique movie star, it'd be hard for her to carry a movie as the actual star, because she just doesn't. I mean, even though she brings so much to the table and so much, she's probably not a strong enough leader to actually bring it all the way there. However, what we're dealing with on the other side with Hillary Clinton is a far different animal. We're dealing with somebody that is sort of uber strong, that is willing to do or say anything to get into the presidency. They'll lie, cheat, steal, anything to put her in that role. So as we prepare for 2016, we've not only got to prepare the ground game, but we've got to prepare by nominating someone that is strong enough, that is a strong enough leader to push back against the Hillary Clintons of the world. And I hate to keep going back to it, but I really believe it's going to be one of these really strong conservative Republican governors that we have in office right now. I think someone's going to emerge as that leader, and if they are to win, it's only going to be because they're able to be strong enough to stand up to Hillary Clinton, and it's going to take strength, it's going to take leadership, and it's going to take.
And they can't be from New Jersey.
And they can't be from New Jersey. They can't be from anywhere close to there. But
I think they're going to have to be.
That's not entirely true because I grew up in Boston and I'm a conservative. So I take insult when people say that. I'm lucky.
Actually, the person who wrote me that grew up in Boston too, but she escaped too. So.
I think that the candidate is going to have to be strong enough first to I don't want to say beat, but make it through and be able to maneuver through the Republican establishment. Because I think they're going to try the same thing. I think they're going to try and put another moderate in there and start going for the independents and the same playbook that has failed them time and again.
They really should be doing is reaching out for the libertarians and letting the independents do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, but there's a war going on right now. Hey, we're up against a break.
Hey, Greg, I
got
another question for you on hold. Will you stay around for another segment?
You bet. Of course I will.
Oh, you're the best.
Thank you, sir.
This is outstanding.
Thanks,
we'll be back in 3 with Greg Phillips from Voters Trust here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, if you care about what's going on in the world, you cannot afford to miss my show. Hi, this is Andrea Kaye, your host of The Andrea Kaye Show. It's not always about the money. Okay, it is always about the money, but it's also about politics, pop culture, and you. The only thing street about this show is the smarts. There's a reason they call me Dynamite in a Dress, and you'll find out why when you listen Tuesday mornings at 10 on Financial News and Talk.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Hey, Sacco, you don't have to white-knuckle the keyboard. I know we told you couldn't leave the helm when we went to break, but you don't have to white-knuckle the keyboard. We got the con.
We are back here with Greg from VotersTrust.com, Greg Phillips, at JumpVote on Twitter and at VotersTrust on Twitter and VotersTrust.com. The phone number is 347-205-9399. And, Greg, do you mind taking a question from the phones?
I do not.
Excellent. We have Jane on the line right now, and I think she has a few questions for you. Jane, go ahead.
Good evening, Jane.
Hey, how are you? It's Jane Miami on Twitter, and a whole bunch of us are listening to you tonight, Greg. It's really good to hear from you again, and so I was just wanting you to give us some actionable items give us 3 or 4 things we can do now. You mentioned 1 governor and 4 senators. Don't keep us guessing. Spell it out for us. Not everybody has a political brain. Give us a playbook. What should we be doing? I know we have a whole bunch of new ladybugs out there in California sitting with Karen Breedice from Westside Agency twittering, and they're drinking their wine and they're listening to you because you are the man. Not too many duck shelters out there. I don't think they do too much duck hunting in California, but they do like their Chardonnay.
There's actually
anyway,
a lot of duck
hunting.
I do a lot of duck hunting.
Oh, yeah, but you're from New England, so that doesn't count.
No,
I'm leaving for there.
From New England.
He's from parts unknown.
I'm from wherever I am at the moment.
You have you're from the Midwest. You have like one of those newscasters' voices. We can't really tell where you're from, which is just, I think you went to school to learn to talk that way. You probably had your accent stripped away from you. But anyways, I want to know what we can do. The ladybugs are not going to come out till after the primaries in 2014, but then we're going to be crawling all over the bushes. And we need to know what we should be doing. Are you going to be giving us a playbook? You want to direct us to a website? You want us to send money? You want us to do directed tweets, Facebook? Tell us what we need to be doing on social networking.
Yeah, all of the above. First things first, signing up on voterstrust.com. It's a short little form. We purposely started off kind of light with the website. Don't have a lot up there. We do have the Declaration of Conservative Independence and a sign-up form. And over the next few days and weeks, you'll start to see a lot more fill in on the website. We wanted to start off a little bit slower. The second thing, to learn a little more about us, Mike Gallagher. We've partnered with Mike Gallagher on his show, and Mike, you can listen to it on MikeOnline.com and pick up a lot of the new things and a lot of the focus areas that we're going to be doing. Mike's going to be helping us push out into the space. So signing up on voterstrust.com. If you can listen to some of Mike's shows, and we'll put the clips up on the site as well over the next few days. But listening to Mike's show is another great way to do this. As for actual targets, we're going to be really easing into that. We're going to be doing a pretty significant effort toward, I'll call it opposition research or maybe vulnerability studies before we come out and support people. What we don't want to do is we don't want to get into a situation where we sign on to support somebody not knowing something that we really should have known, and it's just a better way for us to go. Our first effort is going to be in Ohio. There's a number of critical races in Ohio. Of course, Ohio's a battleground state for 2016. We want to get a jump on that in 2014. Governor Kasich's doing a great job bringing that state back around. He's been through an awful lot up there in the past couple of years since he's been in office. But now has his highest approval rating of his time in office. So Ohio is a place that we're really going to get heavily involved. The other four, we're tossing them around. We're taking a look and seeing what makes sense. Jane, we're looking at your state. It's important to us that we take a hard look at Florida and see whether that's a place we need to play. We're taking a look at Arkansas. We actually think that Arkansas and Louisiana those two Senate races may make the difference in whether or not the Republicans or the GOP or whomever takes over the Senate from Harry Reid. So we're taking a look at those two states as well, but we're looking at others. We're going to be announcing those. Not slow playing them, but we'll be announcing them over a period of time. When we announce them, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting out into those states and into other states, coming down to Miami and meeting with folks like you and getting a group of people together, whether it's 5 people in the living room of somebody's house or 50 people at the Holiday Inn down the street or whatever it is. We're going to try to get out, and we're going to try to begin the process of educating folks how to do what it is we need to do. We have a great opportunity because of folks like you, just like we did with the PAC. We had all sorts of possibilities. And now that we all know a little more, and we sort of educated ourselves with you and Irritated Woman and some of the other folks that were helping us, it really gave us just a great opportunity to learn and understand how to do things. And some of you now are really finding your way into the social networking world, whether it's with 500 followers or 50,000 followers. It really doesn't matter. We're going to use the same techniques. We're going to work with folks. We're going to bring you guys in. We're going to bring y'all into the conversation and let you tell us what works. One of the things that I said on an earlier segment, I don't know if you were on, but we're not going to really dictate this thing. We're not going to say, okay, well, what works in Madison, Mississippi is going to be what works in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or what works in San Diego, may not work in Austin, Texas. So we're going to be, looking at different ways to explore and expand and really begin the process of reaching out and touching folks. We have a piece of technology that we tested in 2010, and we're now working on it. We're bringing it back into play. It's called JoinPack. It's sort of a method to create your own virtual precinct. So you can go in and you can tap people or talk your friends, talk your colleagues, talk your followers on Twitter, and to join in your little precinct on JoinPack, and then you'll be able to bring information, whether it's from us or from candidates themselves. You'll be able to bring information in and start to educate the folks in your group. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things, innovative things. We're going to try some stuff. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the key for all of this is really focusing on, and I hate to go back to it again, but on my personal blog, jumpvote.com, there's a 5-part series on the simple math of elections. We're going to follow the path that the simple math takes us. We're going to work on our base. We're going to work on the undecideds, and we're going to work on the indifferents. We're going to attack them and address each of them in a different manner, in a different way. Some of them we'll be able to reach out to because they, on our base, those are probably the people that follow you on Twitter. The undecideds are people that maybe flit in and out of your timeline. They're interested in what you're saying, but they're just not quite sure. They want to learn more. They probably read a lot more of your posts than other people do. And then we've got the people, then we've got to address the folks that aren't on your timeline at all. They're probably not on Twitter at all. We've got to find those people. We've got to bring them into the fold. We've got to get them not only sort of signed up to be part of your group, but then each of you individually will have to begin the process of educating them. So if it's 2 or 8 or 28, having each of us responsible for a group of folks that don't normally vote and then getting them to the polls is how we're going to beat Obama at their game. They've got about 2,000 people on the ground right now at OFA. OFA, it will be assigned to the Clinton campaign, so they're going to kind of sign it over to them, if you will. Those 2,000 people right now, as we speak, as we're all here on the radio listening to this, they're probably out in some bar somewhere drinking with somebody and getting to know them, learning a little bit about their habits, learning what they're interested in, and those people will be the folks that they bring to the election in 2016. So we've got a lot ahead of us. We've got an enormous way to go before we get there. But the neat thing about it is with all of you, and Jane, thanks so much for helping me, get this together tonight, and for all of you that are listening or your friends that are not listening, I mean, those are the people that you want to go talk to tomorrow. Just call them up, send them an email. Just start to get to understand what it is that's important to them. They may say, I just don't care. Well, if they really don't care, then they won't mind being on your list and let you pick them up and take them to the polls in 2016. Because if they don't care, it's just a few minutes of their time. Buy them a beer or buy them a glass of wine and be sure they get to the polls. So
find a way that they owe you a favor and cash it in at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I used to tell people it takes a lifetime to build up chits and a breath to spend them, and I think 2016 would be a good time for all of us to spend those chits we've built up.
Well, okay, so I'm going to recap. Join Voters Trust, which I did. Go to Jump Vote to your blog site and watch that that 5-part series about how elections are won. Stay tuned for updates. Start listening to that news radio show. And I'm a strong believer, Greg, in force multipliers. I don't like to ask a few people to do a lot of things. I like to ask a lot of people to do a few things. And so, I'm really big on force multipliers. We work on a lot of local initiatives here in Miami. And I tell people, how you get 10 people to sign a petition. The people who live in front of you, behind you, to the left of you, and to the right of you. Then you email, your sisters and brother-in-laws and your cousins and your best friends that are on your most intimate email list, and you ask them to do it. And really, when you're done, you have 30. Then you make sure that everybody who has a kid who is voting age is also, in on whatever it is you're working on. And that's just for a local initiative. So I'm really big on that, and so that's what I intend to do once I sort of plug into your machine, is to employ force multipliers and tell everybody else to do the same. And of course, once we get rolling and we know that we're not dividing the base and we get past primaries, the ladybugs are all going to be crawling out of the bushes, and they're going to be all over this, and the twisters will be all over this, and everybody hopefully will be all over this in a good way. I think people are scared. I think there are a lot of people who are apathetic, who are scared, and I think maybe they might just vote this time. Half of them might be paralyzed with fear and won't do anything, and then half of them that weren't going to might just get there. They might be scared enough to not sit at home and let somebody else decide.
Well, what you're both talking about is... Go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say that was incredibly well summarized. So, Jane, thanks again so much for everything over the last 18 months, and we look forward to the next couple of years and taking back the White House and helping get some of these 30 governors reelected.
Well, thank you, Greg. Keep on keeping on. You're the man, and we really respect you out here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jane. Just before you go, I just want to ask what you meant by hooligans when you said that we were hooligans on Twitter.
Because you are, my God. Listen to your opening remarks. That was the whole reason I started following you in the first place. These two foolish young men were like, what are they up to? And it took me 2 weeks to get you to even tell me what you were up to. I wasn't even sure that you were an extreme leftist, poli-sci students at Harvard who were running an experiment.
You know what we're doing? We're motivating the young conservative base through potty humor and good conservative talk and fact. That's what we do. And it's working, which is really weird.
Hey, Jane, and again from us, thank you so much for all your help. You've been a tremendous friend of the show from the beginning, and I really appreciate you and everyone out there in the Ladybugs and the Twisters. We really appreciate you. I just got corrected, sorry. You guys have been nothing but a fantastic support for us, and we can't say thank you enough.
Well, listen, ask Greg before he hangs up to get you some other heavyweights to come on the show. Don't let him off that easy, okay?
We'd love to. Thank you, Jane, very much.
I wouldn't ever, but I will pay you for saying that comment like I asked you to do for me. So I appreciate that.
I don't even know if we know what we're up to.
I don't know.
Like every week, what is this place?
Hey, Greg, how important do you think how important do you think the youth vote is, or the younger vote, and how can we kind of get that back? Because I think that's something that the Conservative Party has really not so much ignored, but doesn't know how to approach.
I have a 25-year-old or a 26-year-old son who is my sort of unofficial advisor to all things youth. And then I have, as his backup, I have a 15-year-old son who, while he can't quite vote yet, certainly is quick to tell me when anything I'm thinking about doing is stupid. So I have a couple of young advisors that are really good at helping me here. Just yesterday, in fact, they taught me what douche canoe means. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And they had me looped into this 3-way text conversation about what a douche canoe was, and they never would tell me what it was. I finally had to go look it up myself to find out that it's somebody that's just simply not worthy of the word douche alone. That a douche canoe means much bigger than just your regular guy. So I think that really does kind of speak to the real problem that we've got. I mean, we've got a challenge with not really speaking their language. I mean, the reality is, I sit around and think a lot of things are funny, right? Last year during the PAC, when we were doing the Gingrich's PAC, we released this King of Bane video, which ended up making me sort of infamous. It generated the biggest firestorm of earned media and unearned media that I've ever been involved in during a campaign, and the undying hatred of all conservative or all establishment folks forever and ever. But the reality is, my kids, especially the 25-year-old at the time, really didn't get it. I mean, he's like, I don't even understand why everybody's so excited about this. This doesn't make any difference. And part of what's happening is, we were talking earlier about telling stories and relating things to people in a way that can make sense to them. Too often it's the 53-year-old white guy show, right? I mean, I'm sitting around thinking of all the messages. I'm sitting around thinking of all the funny little things that I think are funny and or interesting, or a big slap in the face, and they look at you like, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with me? I really don't care. I think in many ways these 25-year-olds and these 20s, the young voters, are in some ways the indifferents. They've got a lot going on. Some of them are young, they're starting families. Some of them are just trying to graduate from college. Some of them are just trying to figure out where their place is in the world. And they really don't care so much about the politics. So part of our job is going to be finding folks, and Jane was talking about force multipliers, finding young people that can articulate our message to the young people and make it meaningful to them. So if what they really care about is that, look, this is going to hit you when you get your first paycheck, right? That's what an old guy like me would say. You're really going to care about taxes someday. But if you make this thing real to them and you say to them, look, your paycheck is going to be $160 a month less because of Obamacare.
Greg,
something they can begin to relate to.
I have never told you this story, but I'm going to tell you how I taught my 9-year-old daughter about taxes. So she heard me complaining one day, and she doesn't get an allowance. I pay her a certain amount of money per chore. So there's a list of chores, and she can pick the chore, and each chore is worth a different dollar amount. That's how she makes money, because not all labor is equal. That's the point of that. So she was asking about taxes, and I said, okay, go get me 5 $1 bills. So she got me 5 $1 bills, and she laid them out. I said, okay, you live in this house. She said, yes. I said, you live in this house. There's electricity. There's water. You use some of that. Everybody uses some of that. It costs money to run this house. Yes. She says, yes. I said, okay, I'm the government because I'm daddy. She said, okay. I said, well, you have to pay your fair share so that I can run these things. And I took 2 of her dollars, and I put them aside, and I said, okay, you paid taxes so that I can provide these services, or I need to feed your little brother, and her first question was, well, why do I have to pay for him? And I said, well, just hear me out here. So I said, now you have a room in this house, right? She says, yeah. She didn't like where this was going. I said, that room is the state. She said, okay. I said, I'm also the governor of the state. I said, so I'm also the state government. She said, okay. I said, you have power outlets in your room? She said, yeah. I said, you listen to your music in your room and electricity? She says, yes. You have your bed and so forth, other things we bought? She says, yeah. I said, well, that takes money. So I took $1 more and I put it aside. I said, you've just been taxed by the federal government and the state government. You can go ahead and keep that $2. And I put her $3 in my pocket. I didn't give it back, and she learned a very important lesson on taxes.
You need to give me your home number so that I can call her and tell her that she's due an EBT card from you.
No way, she's got a
I
job.
hope you passed on the federal withholding tax to the government, because you can't collect that and not pass it along. You'll get in a lot of trouble for that.
I donated it.
Oh.
I donated it to the Sackhead Clint Relief Fund. I'll give you my personal information when we're off the air if you'd like.
You guys.
Hey, Greg, we're coming up on the end of the show. Thank you so much. Let's tell everybody once again, and we linked it on our page, sackheadsradio.com, to Voters Trust. We got a link on the side there for you, but you tell everyone where they need to go to find you.
Yeah, thanks so much. A couple of places. VotersTrust.com on the website. Our Twitter account is @VotersTrust, and my personal sort of get me in trouble Twitter account is JumpVote, @JumpVote. And I sort of cross back and forth. Sometimes I forget which account I'm working on, and I put nonsense on the one that's not supposed to be on. But nevertheless, I think you'll be able to follow it. Clint, Sean, you guys are the best. I appreciate y'all letting me come on with you. And for those of you who kind of labored through your night listening to me yap, I appreciate all of you too. And if we can get everybody to sign up on VotersTrust.com, we will be in touch very soon with a lot of new and exciting information about where we're taking this effort and where you're taking this effort.
Excellent. And we would love to have you back if you would be so inclined.
Love to. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
guys.
like Jane said, if you know any heavyweights, just
saying, if you know any other heavyweights.
You got my email. I'm just saying, it's not a big deal.
You know what Jane actually said was, she said, "Do you know any other heavyweights?" And I almost objected, and then I said, I guess I'll take that.
Look,
you're
kind of
absolutely. Are you kidding? We're all falling all over ourselves because you're like finally going to get on the radio, Greg. You are the man. I mean, you are the Wyatt Earp. You got in some serious trouble last time. That makes you the man.
Greg, you're kind of a big deal. You might as well just own it.
Yeah, seriously.
Just own the awesomeness, because
I think I play best in the shadows, though, guys.
Well, maybe you better get back in there.
Okay, so basically you're a ninja. That's cool. That's still a really big deal.
You're a conservative.
Yeah. By the way, thanks for that new name you gave me. I amended my my Twitter profile on JumpVote to reflect the new name you gave me. So I appreciate that.
Don't forget the tagline too. The revolution begins here, right? On
I
Voters Trust.
I love it, guys.
And
thank you all so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Come back and update us on the pack, and we will be as involved as we possibly can be.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye, sir.
Good night, all.
Greg Phillips, VotersTrust.com.
Good night, Jane.
Jane Miami, @JaneMiami on Twitter. If you don't follow her, there is something severely wrong with you.
And which liberalism is something that's severely wrong with you, which may be a reason why you don't follow her. Or if you're a conservative and you don't follow her, maybe it's because you are, in fact, a liberal. I'm just throwing it out there.
There is satire that comes out every once in a while. I'll have a good satire tweet, too. So.
And we certainly enjoy it. Jane, thank you so much again.
All right.
Thank you very much, Jane.
And you
Good
can
night,
find
folks.
us on... Good night, Jane. You can find us at Sackheads on Twitter as well. We're on Facebook.com/SackheadsRadio. Check out our website. There is a link there for VotersTrust.com, and that's SackheadsRadio.com. Also, a shout-out to our good friend Rooster over at ConservativeOutcry.net for joining us for a brief amount of time tonight. That was fantastic.
You're staring at me like, listen, I'm so upset that not only did our third in command leave the helm earlier, but he left the show early. He gets up from the from the board and walks around, like, tries to give me some fist bump, and I'm like, okay, I don't know, are we going for the high five? The fist bump was kind of that awkward moment there, and then he walked out, and I'm staring at you like, we just lost our sound guy, which means the show can't end, so I guess we're going to be here until next week just talking. I have
plenty of Gatorade and snacks. So
I don't know how this is going to work out.
I'm going to just handcuff him to the bench from now on. I mean, we got to figure out something at this point to keep him in a seat here. These damn kids.
Let's find some seat belts and or like a straight jacket that we can tie around.
No, he's gonna
he needs
type.
his arms. Yeah,
we gotta
can
figure
type
that
with
out.
His nose. I mean, seriously, have you seen that thing? But my friend, great show.
It was a great show. Thank you again to Greg Phillips for joining us tonight. It was awesome to have him. We will have him back again soon. Thank you for everyone who showed up in the chat room and hung out with us and all of our listeners. Check us out next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Ken came back in our chat room.
Ken did come back.
I
And a
missed
special
him.
shout out to our good friend Ken over at the
The
Exceptional Conservative Show. He's going to start a 2-minute riot because that's all that's left in the show.
No, there's 60 seconds.
60
I just heard the lady
seconds
tell me in my ear.
officially.
So hopefully he calls in next week. Hint.
Yeah, I know, huh?
Yeah,
Come
huh?
on.
Hey,
Ken, just
Ken.
saying, buddy.
what were you in prison? Racist or funny?
We'll find out next week
We'll
here
find out
on the Sackheads Radio Show.